So, Mark 3, again he entered the synagogue. This is referring to Jesus. And a man was there who had a withered hand. They watched him to see whether he would cure him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Come forward." Then he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. He looked around at them with anger, and he was grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. Jesus departed with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee followed him. Hearing all that he was doing, they came to him in great numbers from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, beyond the Jordan, and the region around Tyre and Sidon. He told his disciples to have a boat ready for him because of the crowd, so that they would not crush him. For he had cured many, so that all who had diseases pressed upon him to touch him. Wherever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and shouted, "You are the Son of God." But he sternly ordered them not to make him known. He went up the mountain and called to him those whom he wanted, and they came to him. And he appointed 12, whom he also named apostles, to be with him, and to be sent out to proclaim the message, and to have authority to cast out demons. So he appointed 12, Simon, to whom he gave the name Peter, James, John of Zebedee, and John the brother of James, to whom he gave the name Boanerges, right? That is sons of thunder, and Andrew, and Philip, and Bartholomew, and Matthew, and Thomas, and James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Cananean, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Then he went home, and the crowd came together again, so that they could not even eat. When his family heard it, they went out to restrain him, for people were saying he was gone out of his mind. And the scribes who came down from Jerusalem said, "He has Beelzebul, and by the ruler of the demons he casts out demons." And he called them to him and spoke to them in parables. "How can Satan cast out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. And if Satan has risen up against himself and is divided, he cannot stand. But his end has come. But no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his property without first tying up the strong man. Then indeed the house can be plundered. Truly I tell you, people will be forgiven for their sins and whatever blasphemies they utter. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit can never have forgiveness, but is guilty of an eternal sin, for they had said he has an unclean spirit." The last set of verses, starting from verse 31. Then his mother and his brothers came, and standing outside, they sent to him and called him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they said to him, "Your mother and your brothers and sisters are outside, asking for you." And he replied, "Who are my mother and my brothers?" And looking at those who sat around him, he said, "Here are my mothers and my brothers. Whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother." Right. So that's a long passage. Sorry. Right. But like what I said, I'm going to try to make this as exciting as possible. Okay. I entitled this "The Cost of Unorthodoxy." Right. The cost of what? Unorthodoxy. Okay. Unorthodox meaning something unusual, right? Something different. Okay. Or something against, some common standards. Now, and then the subtitle is "Challenges in what? Jesus' Ministry." So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at this. We're going to look at the challenges in the ministry of Jesus. And we will also look at the challenges in the ministry, like such as symposia. Okay, we're going to try to relate it to us. Right? I want to make sure that this is somehow relevant to us as well. Okay. So it is always less stressful to do things in accordance to the norm or the status quo. Right? Just follow what everybody else is doing. That should be what? It makes make things less stressful. It is always difficult to do them in ways that go against the norm. It's always difficult. when you're trying to do something against the norm, you need to expect all sorts of what? Challenges. You need to expect all sorts of what? Challenges. It is already difficult to do things the normal way. How much more if you're doing it in the not normal way? Okay, in a way that is somehow unorthodox. Now, here's the normal way of doing something. So let me give you an example. The normal way for a lot of people, you go to college, right? You go to school from kinder to what? To college. Okay, so that's around 16 years of your life. Find a stable job, start a family, buy a house, plan for retirement, send kids to college, comfortably retire. Now, but even those who follow the normal route are already having a hard time, right? So how much more for those who took what? A different path. Much more they will actually what? Have a hard time, okay? Some of those who did not follow the normal route also succeeded in life, okay? Of course, most of the ones who succeeded in life tend to be the ones who took what? The normal route. Some who didn't take the normal route, people who didn't go to college, but they still what? Succeeded. Some of the billionaires today, right? They're not college graduates. But the same thing can be said about the ministry. Okay? Different denominations have, for example, have different requirements for ordination for their ministers. You guys know that, right? So if you want to take the normal route, if you're going for like a major denomination, you have to actually what? They have stricter requirements. I don't know if you guys know that. Okay, they have stricter requirements. So, for example, if you want to be a pastor for a mainline Protestant denomination like the Presbyterians, the Methodists, Lutherans, you have to get a master's degree, right? MDiv, they call it the MDiv. It's like a 3-year master's degree. That's after your bachelor's, right? So it's like 4 years of bachelor's degree and then another 3 years in order for you to become a pastor in those churches. I heard that the Presbyterian Church requires applicants for ordination to pass Hebrew, Greek. Okay, this is like hard, okay? And you're doing you have to pass the exam in theology, biblical studies. And they follow a set standard on how, how much a minister or how, staff members ought to get paid. So it's very, very professional. They have what? Salary scale. Do you guys find this is what? The normal way of doing things for mainstream churches. Some of their ministers even have established speaking fees. Do you guys follow me here? They have accommodation requirements. I know because I had a classmate when I was at seminary who's now some kind of a famous theologian, and I looked at one of his website one time, and he has some kind of speaking fee, right? And they have accommodation, right? If you want to invite him, you have to rent such and such hotel for him. You guys follow me? And he needs like breakfast, lunch, and dinner on top of what? The speaking fee, right? So this is, very, very professional way of doing things. Some evangelical denominations, like the Assemblies of God, they do not have stricter standards or requirements. Right? You're not required to get your bachelor's degree in order to become what? A pastor. You don't have to take like those. You don't have to take like biblical languages. You don't need to know Greek or Hebrew in order for you to get what? To get ordained, right? But even those denominations, they also have what? Standard way of doing things. If you want to plant a church, so the denomination will probably provide you with the funds. Are you guys following me here? The denomination will probably tell people, okay, here's how much your pastors need to get paid or something like that. Here's how you should get loans. Now, but here in Symposia, we're doing it the unorthodox way. We're not doing it that way. Do you guys follow me here? We're actually starting from scratch here. It is, of course, it's not anything new. I'm not claiming that this is a new thing. But other churches started like us, but some of them also succeeded. Water of Life started as what? Some kind of a home Bible study group. Abundant Living also started in the same way, right? Now, I'm not saying that we're going to be like a big church, right? That's not what I'm aiming for. I'm just, I don't want you to give that illusion, okay? Right? Now, so, but we're doing something very similar here. We're starting from what? Scratch, right? All of our leadership team, members of our leadership team are actually what? Volunteers, right? We do everything on our own. We use our own resources to make Sunday services enjoyable for everyone, right? I was even feeling bad because Gene even has to buy battery for his camera, right? I said, I'll buy it for you, right? Don't spend your money, right? Now, but this is what we do when we're doing it what? The unorthodox way. We are building our house church through sweat and blood, right? We simply rely on our calling and our passion for God's kingdom, and we rely on the commitments of those people who actually what? Attend. Is it very, surely it's an exhausting thing to do. Do you guys follow me here? Right? It's an exhausting thing to do. But it is definitely worth doing. It's definitely worth doing. I was telling Gene that, other pastors, so when they preach on Monday, they're usually off, right? But here, I preach on Sunday, but I have to go to work on Monday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., right? Now, symposia must expect all sorts of what? Challenges along the way. Are you guys following me here? We need to expect what? Challenges along the way. That's why I'm always preparing, my partner here, Gene. Right? I said you will see, people who attend our group will go up and down, up and down. That's just the nature of the ministry because we're doing it in what? The unorthodox way in some sense. But you guys know that Jesus actually encountered the same sort of what? Challenges. Because he actually did it in the unorthodox what? Unorthodox way. You don't have to do it in the orthodox way, right? Because there are people who did it, right? But they also what? Succeeded. I'm not saying that we should not do the orthodox way. I'm not saying that at all. But there are times when it's probably good to probably do it in what? The unorthodox way. Okay? Now, so, number one, and this is my first point. Okay? This is based on verses 1 to 6. I entitled this section, Oppositions from the Powers That Be. Right? When you do things the unorthodox way, what happens? There will be what? Oppositions. An orthodox ministry is doomed to clash with the powers that be. That's what happened to Jesus. An orthodoxy is inherently a threat to orthodoxy. That's why there will always be what? A clash between the two. The one with power, the one with clout, the one with interest in protecting the norm, naturally reacts by opposing the new, opposing the different, and opposing what? The unordinary. Isn't that what happened in Jesus' day? Okay. Institutional conflicts are actually what? Inevitable. So you have a standard institution that wants to maintain their what? Their powers from the challenges that come from what? The new ones. Okay. I hope I'm making sense here. Okay. Now, the new or the different becomes a threat to the existence of the standard bearers of powers. There's something seemingly and inherently threatening about the uncertainties that are inherent in the new and the different. When you're starting something new, right, you always have to expect that there will be a lot of what? Uncertainties. Right? Is that clear? There are a lot of uncertainties. Now, and you guys know that that's something that happens in churches today. The old church might try to outdo, the new church plant. Right? If the new church plant has something more appealing to offer to people. Despite the fact that they have a common spiritual goal, their conflicting business interests turn them into what? Competitors. Which is a weird thing, right? Do you guys follow me here? So we all have, all different churches have the same spiritual goal, but they have what? Different interests. Business interests. So they ended up having what? They become competitors, right? So we ended up treating members as what? Customers, clients, right? I need to get you from that church, right? Right? Isn't that what's happening today? Right? Okay. Now, so you have to understand it. The Pharisees sought for opportunities to see Jesus fail or what? To make mistakes. That's why when we start something new like this, you can always expect that there will be people who will wait for us to make what? Mistakes. Do you guys follow me here? I remember the very first time I announced that we were doing symposia, right? There were some people who posted on their Facebook, right, that watch out for something, right? Something different or probably is not of God,
right? So I don't know if they're like referring to me, right? So I was like, okay, right? I even told Gene, I think this is probably trying to oppose us, right? But I said, don't worry, you have to expect what? Oppositions. Why? Because even Jesus was actually opposed by people. The Pharisees were trying to look for reasons to actually what? Accuse and destroy Jesus. Every time you start something new, you have to expect something like that. We see this even in politics, right? We see this even in politics. The liberals and the conservatives trying to figure out ways, to see whether, the other group is actually what? Making some mistakes. And once they make the mistakes, the other group will try to what? Highlight it. Right? Now, we see this also when, in our jobs. And I remember my very, very first job here in the U.S., I worked for an electronics company. So I was working with, we are, a lot of Filipinos who just came from the Philippines. We are all unskilled. You guys following me? We're like getting paid minimum. Do you guys follow me? Minimum wage. Right? I remember in my first job, I had this coworker who's been working there for a long time. And what she does every day is like she's trying to what? Figure out how to outdo me. Okay? And I'm like, I'm just trying to do my work here. Okay? Right? So how many have you done already? Right? Just 2, 3. Right? He was trying to what? Because something new, right? Because I was the new worker, so he's gonna try to what? He's gonna try to challenge, or he's gonna try to oppose whatever it is that I'm doing. Now, so the dynamic of power relations is an inevitable and fundamental element of what? Human relationships. Even in marriages, there's always what? Power relations, right? Do you guys follow me here? Although I always win all the time. Just kidding. Right? I know. But that's clearly evident in the relationship of who? Jesus and the Pharisees. I hope you guys are following me here. Now, the Pharisees wanted to see whether Jesus would heal the sick on Sabbath day. It was actually it was not necessarily unlawful to actually heal on Sabbath day. But somehow, how the Pharisees, they like to go beyond what is actually what? Required, what is actually demanded. They probably did not think that healing on Sabbath was wrong, but they wanted to exaggerate the demands of the law in order to find fault on what? On Jesus. They're trying to look for something that can actually what? Destroy Jesus. Now, one thing you have to understand here is this. At the root of this conflict that is related to power relations, you should find more fundamental evil that was actually responsible for the conflict. Envy. Do you guys follow me here? Malice and hatred. The Pharisees were envious of Jesus due to his what? Popularity. The Pharisees were malicious since they wanted him to get in trouble. The Pharisees hated Jesus for challenging their authorities. Now, once we succumb to such earthly inclinations, we can devise all sorts of ways to damage the lives of what? Of other people. Okay. And this is what the Pharisees were trying to do. We can exaggerate what is demanded of other people by demanding more than what is actually what? Demanded. Religious authorities are not immune from such earthly inclinations. You guys know that even priests, pastors, right? They can have what? Malice, envy, and hatred. I hope you guys are following me here. And that's the reason why we don't treat religious authorities as what? Absolute authorities. Do you guys follow me here, right? Because they can twist everything to fit their own personal taste or serve their own advantages. I'm not supposed to say that because I'm leading the group, right? I'm supposed to tell you should actually listen to me. That would make things easier if I tell you guys, just listen to me, I know it. But even me, I'm also liable to what? To have envy, to have malice, to have hatred. Do you guys follow me here, right? Now, there is something insightful about the question that Jesus asked to the Pharisees. Look at what he asked here. He said, is it lawful to do good or to do harm on Sabbath? To save life or to kill. I want you to notice the distinction here. Doing good, doing harm. Right? Doing good, doing harm. Doing good is what? Saving a life. Doing harm is killing a life. Now, morality or the law should always favor doing good and disfavor doing harm. Do you guys follow me here? Morality and the law or the law should always favor what? Doing good and disfavor doing harm. While the law, right? While the law as interpreted by malicious religious leaders can favor what? Doing harm rather than doing good. Any act that intends to do that which is good should always be favored by the law, even if it conflicts with widely received traditions or the demands of religious authorities. The law's primary task is the promotion of what? The good. Say that again. Say that with me. Promotion of the good. When it promotes unnecessary harm, it delegitimizes its what? Legal authority. Now, I want you to understand what I'm trying to point out here. You know, sometimes some people, like let's say Martin Luther King Jr., let's say, right? What was he actually fighting for? He did not deny the illegality of racial segregation because it was actually what? Legal. But what was he actually claiming? He's claiming that the law that actually allows racial segregation is actually invalid. Why? Because it goes against what? Morality. Do you guys follow me here? Again, the same thing that Jesus was actually pointing out here. There's a difference between morality and what is legal. You know, what is legal is not necessarily what is what? What is moral. Sometimes, you know, what is legal and what is moral can actually what? Clash. Just like in this case, right? Jesus was trying to heal what? On Sabbath, but according to Pharisees, no, you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing today. But Jesus said, what is much more important? Is it the good, right? Or is it what is actually legally correct? I hope I'm making sense here. You know, even church today face this kind of what? Challenges. Do you guys follow me here? You know, sometimes when you make a claim about, oh, you guys should not separate those children from their, you know, undocumented parents. Sometimes people think that that's a political claim. No, it's not a political claim. Do you guys follow me? It's not a political claim. It's a moral claim. Do you guys follow me here? It's just a moral claim. You know, so now people always say that no one, even the president, is above the rule of law. For Jesus, nothing is above morality. For Jesus, nothing is above what? Morality. Even the law, right? Even the law must submit to the demands of some kind of morality. A legal system that ignores the demands of morality can promote what? Harm. Do you guys follow me here? We have a legal, a law librarian, right? Right here, right? So I should actually, I should have thought about it. She can correct me. Okay. Oh, she seems to be agreeing with me. Okay. Now, now, if it fails to promote the good, it loses its what? Moral authority. When the law fails to promote that which is good, it loses its what? Legal authority or moral authority. Okay. Its moral authority is contingent on whether it promotes what? The good. The morally good will always be above the legally correct. Right? It'll always be above what is legally correct. You know, the Pharisees, when Jesus said that, when he asked that question, the Pharisees responded with what? Silence. Weird silence, okay? They were just silent. And they should have known the answers to such question. You know, Jesus thought, this is something obvious, so you guys should have actually what? You guys should have known the answer. Are you guys following me here? Yeah. So, for example, when you, again, I'm not making a political claim here. I'm just trying to relate it to our current time. Right? So, for example, do not separate those children from their, people who are applying for refugee asylum status, right? And they'll say, "Oh, you're just making that as a political claim." No, you guys should have known, right? This is obvious. You don't separate the kids from what? From their parents, right? What if your children are actually separated from you? How will you feel? This is not a political claim. This is a what? A moral claim. I hope I'm making sense here. Now, the problem with the Pharisees is that they managed to appear innocent as if they were ignorant. Do you guys follow me here? Which is weird, right? And that's the reason why Jesus responded to them with anger. It's okay to be angry. Right? Jesus was angry. That's what the Bible said. He responded to them with what? With anger. I hope I'm making sense here. For example, remember, you probably know of Bonhoeffer, for example. He was actually criticizing the German Christians during the time of Hitler. Why? Because according to Bonhoeffer, you guys were silent the whole time all these things are what? Happening. Martin Luther King Jr. was actually what? Criticizing the American Christians because according to him, you guys were silent while people are actually what? Being mistreated. Right? So, one thing that we can see when we look at Jesus, Bonhoeffer, right, Martin Luther King Jr. is this. They knew how to transform anger as a powerful human emotion into action. Right? They knew how to transform their anger into what? Into action. They were mad. They were angry. Now, some of you might say, is it okay to be angry? Now, I guess that sometimes it's okay to be angry. Right? Now, let me read a quote here from John Chrysostom, an early church father. And I want you to listen to what he said here. He who is not angry, whereas he has a cause to be, sins. If you're not getting angry, and there's actually a cause for you to be angry, there's something wrong with you. Is that clear? Right? For unreasonable patience is the hotbed of many vices. It fosters negligence and incites not only the wicked, but the good to do wrong. Are you guys following here? When you ought to be, when you're supposed to be angry and you're not, and you have a reason to, right? Even the good people will end up doing that which is wrong. I hope I'm making sense here. I'm trying to justify here why Jesus was actually what? Why he was angry. And I'm assuming Jesus was frustrated here. Right? I'm not mad, okay? I just look mad, okay? Because I was looking at Gene, it looks like he's like getting afraid. Fearful. Now, so the religious and political authorities conspired to actually destroy what? Conspired to destroy Jesus. Okay? Now, second point, from verses 7 to 12. So let me give you the subtitle for this. Pressures from expectations. Pressures from what? Expectations. Now, what do I mean by this? When you're doing something new, okay, you get pressures from what? From the expectations of people. Okay. Many people in the church can have unrealistic expectations with regard to their pastors. You guys follow me here? Many people in the church can have unrealistic expectations with regard to their what? Pastors. They expect their pastors to be a miracle worker. They expect their pastors to be their life coach. Okay? They expect their pastors to be their counselor. They expect their pastors to be a person who doesn't get mad. Right? They expect their pastors to be a well-behaved person all the time. They expect their pastors to be a person who knows all the answers to all questions. They expect their pastors to be a person with a magic wand. They expect their pastors to be a person, who never gets tired. Now, there's something illusory about such expectations. Do you guys follow me here? There's something what? Illusory about this. The illusions of church members cause pressures on the part of their pastors. Many pastors are also pressured to meet such expectations. They always feel that they have to meet what? Those expectations. An expectation of perfection cannot be met, right? By people who are what? Imperfect. You cannot expect people to be perfect when they're actually what? Imperfect. I hope I'm making sense here. Right? The reason why I'm saying this because it has something to do with Jesus here. Okay? An expectation. Now, if you struggle to be nice all the time, pastors also struggle to be what? to be nice all the time. Do you guys follow me here? Does that make sense? Right? A pastor is an imperfect leader of the church, right? Of imperfect people. That's why we always say you guys are always welcome here, right? If you guys have questions, if you have doubts, it's okay, right? Now, Gene always tells us that. Right? Together, they try to fulfill God's calling in the midst of all sorts of what? Imperfections. Now, according to a survey, let me give you, this is a fascinating survey, I think. 75% of pastors report significant stress-related crisis at least once in their ministry. 75%. Okay. 50% of pastors feel unable to meet the demands of the job. They always feel what? Many of them feel inadequate, right? 70% of pastors say that they have a lower self-image now than when they first started. That's 70%. That's a lot, right? 50% of pastors considered leaving the ministry in the last month. Okay. 50% of pastors who are starting out will not last 5 years. I'm not discouraging you, man. Okay. Right? Over 1,700 pastors left the ministry every month. 1,700 pastors left the ministry, right? Every month. We're not talking about a year here, right? This is every month. Okay. Number one reason why pastors leave the ministry: burnout. Right, they get burned out. I think that because people have a lot of what? Expectations. I hope you guys are following me here. Now, and I don't want to be a part of that statistics. Okay? If we're going to start this ministry. So I want to do things right in the beginning by limiting the scope of my responsibilities. Right? I always tell that to Gene. In order for me to effectively serve God, I have to what? I have to limit the scope of my responsibilities. So I told him I'll do preaching, visionizing, and pretty much that's it, right? And I told Gene, pretty much you'll take care of the rest. Okay, get burned out. Right? But again, preaching is one of the things that actually cause a lot of pastors to what? To quit. Because it's hard to what? Prepare for sermons Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. Now, so in order for us to be fruitful and productive, I think I have to do something like that. Okay? I want to avoid pressures of what? Of unrealistic expectations from people. And I'm the kind of guy who doesn't like to say no. Okay? But I have to learn how to what? I have to learn how to say no. Right? So it's not because I don't care about people. I do care about you. Right? I'm not going to start this if I don't care about what? People. I actually don't need to do this. I have a job. Are you guys following me here? I'm doing this. Why? Because, one, it's because I want to be used by God. And secondly, I want to give other people opportunities to be used, what? By God in the church. Because one of the problems we have when we go to big churches is we don't get used. Do you guys follow me here? I went to a big church. We were there for a while, right? But I was never really that much used. Do you guys follow me here? Right? I go every Sunday. I always look like the new person, right? Right? They always come and say, "Oh, hi, welcome to this," right? It's like I'm always going to be like this every Sunday, right? Which is a little weird. Now, but despite the fact that I'm really busy, and I'm not complaining here. Okay, like what I said, I'm in it for the long haul, right? But I think in order for me to minister to people, right, I have to cut down on some responsibilities, and then so we can make this work, right? So, I am here, and I think pastors should actually view it this way: you are doing ministry. Why? Because you're trying to meet God's what? Expectations. You guys follow me here? You're trying to meet what? God's expectations. Not necessarily the people. Because the people are what? Are co-laborers. We're all trying to meet what? God's expectations. I hope I'm making sense here. So I want it to be, I want Symposia not to just be my church. And if you decide to stay with us, I want this to be what? Your church. For you to say, this is also our church. Right? I want you to own the ministry in the same way I'm actually trying to what? Own it myself. Okay? I am actually very happy about Jean, Val, Renee, Florence, and they're all volunteers. They never ask anything in return. Okay. I'm just very humbled, right, by their passion to serve. Okay, they're giving their best. Okay, they're here early on Sundays, right? And I think that's I appreciate them a lot. Okay, they're very, very big help, right? So even Jesus was actually stressed out by all the attention he got from people. Do you guys see what happened here? When a lot of people were actually approaching Jesus, he wanted to ask. He asked the apostles, can you put me in a boat so that I can stay away from the people? Because all the people were like trying to want him to what? To heal them, right? They have what? Big expectations. If it was already difficult for Jesus to do it, how much more for what? For regular people, like leading a group. Do you guys following me here? Some of us might say, oh, if Jesus was only here, he will come and go out of his way to actually reach out for me. Jesus didn't try to do that. He was actually trying to what? Avoid people. Because his role is not to cure everyone. You guys follow me here? That was not his role. His role is not to cure everyone. Right? Do you guys follow me here? If that was his role, he could have cured all of them, but he was trying to avoid them. Right? Because I'm assuming he must have been what? Stressed out. Right? I hope I'm making sense here. Now, Jesus does not exist to meet our expectations and our wishes. We are the ones who are supposed to meet his expectations. But somehow we treat it what? The other way. Do you guys follow him here? We see Jesus as someone who will meet our expectations. And we have so much expectations. Not just you, me too. Do you guys follow me? I have a lot of expectations, right? But I hope you guys are following what I'm saying here. Okay, so let's move to the next one. We're almost done, so I'm going to try to finish on time. Third point is this. Verses 13 to 19. I will entitle this, Building Ministry Team from Scratch. Building ministry team from what? Scratch. Remember I told you about major denominations? They do things what? Professionally. Okay, so they will actually offer pastoral jobs to people who are already what? In major seminaries. So they'll go there, right? They'll hire people to actually what? To serve as their pastors. And they will give them, this is like a typical job, right? So they will have salary schedules. Do you guys follow me here? Medical insurance, retirement package. Now, I'm not claiming that there's anything wrong about that. But when we plant a church unorthodoxly, right, or not in the usual way, we start from where? We start from scratch. It has lots of risks. We look for people who are willing to passionately commit to God's church despite our lack of training. I don't have adequate training myself. I hope you guys know that, right? I don't have adequate training myself. I don't have an MDiv, right? I didn't go for my Master's of Divinity when I was in seminary. I only attended a Bible college 1 year. Okay. Do you guys follow me here? When I attended the seminary, I hated those people who are actually doing pastoral studies. Right? So I took the academic track, because you can do ministerial track, and then you can do what? The academic track. Okay, so, and that's what I did. Okay, I was a philosophy major. I was not a pastoral studies major. So I myself, I'm also what? No, ill prepared for this. Okay, it's not something I learned in school. You guys follow me here? My dissertation has nothing to do with this one either. I hope I'm making sense here. Right? I did some work on 18th century German philosophy. Right? It has nothing to do at all with what? With what we're doing here. So I am actually not trained. So where did I get my training? It was all hands-on training, right? From Charisma, from People's Church in San Diego, and from Hundredfold Covenant in the Philippines. That's just it. I was just doing ministry, and that's the only training I got. I always tell Pastor Fred, I learned a lot from you, right? Everything I know about ministry, most of it, I learned it from Pastor Fred. You guys follow me? You don't have to blame him if I make mistakes, right? The problem is probably in me. Okay, right now. So for example, how did I partner with Gene? Considering that I was not even close to him before. Right? People are probably wondering, how did you ended up with Gene? People didn't see us together. We never hang out. I never took him out. Okay, I'm always like with Matt, with Joe, Josh, Dodge, right? Not with Gene. Florence even asked me, he's like, how did you ended up with Gene? Right? Now, but here's what happened here. I just wanted to share this to you, so at least you know how we started. I was actually surprised that he was talking about something similar here today, and I didn't even show him my sermon yet. Okay, but I wanted to talk about this because at least you need to know. Okay, many years ago, or many months ago, right? I was really contemplating on actually planting a church, right, with Florence. But I told Florence, I need someone to help me out, like a younger guy, right? Because I feel like, I'm getting old myself, right? So I said I want some kind of a younger guy. And Gene, he used to post, those motivational videos on Facebook, and I actually watch it. And I told Florence, you know what? I should probably ask Gene, right, to actually help me out, because I think there's just something about Gene, right? Probably the looks too, right? I'm putting you on the spot here, man. Right? And so I was actually thinking about him for a very long time, and then out of the blue, last February, he contacted me, and remember, I'm not even close to him, right? I never took him out before, right? So we're never close. February, he just contacted me. And he said, I wanted to meet with you in a coffee shop in Rancho. I said, oh, okay. I said, yeah. So I thought that he just wants somebody to talk to. But I was somehow a little weirded out by the fact that he wanted to what? He wanted to see me. At the time when I was even thinking about him. That's why when he told me about his passion for ministry and his desire to be in the ministry, readily I recognized, right, that there's something here, right? I don't know why there was this impression in me, right? I don't know if it's coming from God, right? And then the fact that he even he tried to contact me about this. The rest is history after that. 7 months later, look at us. We started Symposia, right? Many denominational leaders and mainstream pastors will understandably be suspicious of how this ministry came about. Due to what? An unorthodox beginning. I hope I'm making sense here. As a former worship leader, I always wanted to have good praise and worship. And there you go. God provided us with Val and Renee, right? Good. She's good in playing the guitar. She's good in singing. Okay. I already knew that my wife also would become a good partner in the ministry. She's been my partner in the ministry since 1994. That's how we ended up dating. Okay, I secretly asked her, right, to help me in the ministry, to teach a Bible study group, with the secret intention of trying to actually get close to her. Okay, it worked. Okay, and that's what you call skills. I'm just kidding. Right. Now, we started from scratch, right? That's what we did here. Like us, Jesus also built his unorthodox ministry from scratch. He did not benefit from Harvard School of Pharisees, right? From Yale School of Sadducees, right? And Princeton School of Scribes, okay? He didn't benefit from any of them. When he was looking for partners, he looked for people who are what? Theologically untrained. The fishermen. Do you guys follow me? The tax collector, the other nobodies, right? They all serve to be members of his what? Ministry team. Right? It's not like I'm going to go call Fuller Seminary and say, hey guys, you guys have some of your PhDs, right? Are you guys willing to volunteer without any pay, right? To help me plant a church? We already know what they're going to say, right? They're going to say what? A big no. Do you guys follow me here? I hope you guys are following what I'm saying here. But look at the people who have lasting legacies. it was not the Pharisees. It was not the Sadducees. It was actually the disciples of Jesus, who were a bunch of nobodies, but somehow they turned the world upside down. I hope I'm making sense here. I'm not discounting the intellectuals here. I'm simply pointing out that's how Jesus did it. Is that clear? Jesus was also not perfect in picking disciples. He also ended up with a bad apple, okay? And that's Judas. And if it is possible for Jesus to actually fail, to have some kind of failing to discern, in some sense, because he ended up picking someone who ended up betraying him, who ended up betraying him in the end. So far, we're okay at the symposia, right? We have good-looking apples here, okay? Right, now, so, fourthly, and we're almost done here, misconceptions from uncharitable interpretations. Can you say that with me? Misconceptions from what? Uncharitable interpretations. When you start something different, you're vulnerable to what? Uncharitable interpretations. People will have a tendency to interpret what you're doing with suspicions. You guys follow me here? I'm assuming some people might say, oh, they're starting in a weird way, right? It must be somehow heretical. Do you guys follow me here? Oh, they're starting in a weird way. They probably want to get your money. Isn't that the kind of things that probably you might hear from people? Such uncharitable interpretations will eventually lead to what? Misconceptions. People will have misconceptions. Now, so in order to minimize the misconceptions here, I directly talked to my 3 previous pastors, right, from my old church, and for many of you, your old church as well. And I asked for their blessings. I didn't ask for permission. I asked for their what? Blessings. Right? Because I don't want this kind of misconceptions that people might have. Do you guys follow me here? Does that make sense? Right? So if people wonder whether Symposia is heretical, just let them watch the video. Right? We put it on Facebook. Right? So there's nothing in secret here. Right? Or look at the YouTube one. Yeah, because I look better on the YouTube. YouTube versions, okay? Right? Now, we're not here to get your money either, okay? If you notice, we even use our own money, right, to actually make this thing work. I told Gene, the textbook that I actually edited, once we get registered, all the royalties will actually go where? We'll go to Symposia, right? Right now it's going somewhere else, like some institution that I chose. NPR, right? Sorry. NACLU, okay? Now, but we wanted to what? We wanted to, I want you to see that, we're not here to get your money, right? We're not here to spread heresy, okay? It is easier to go to an established mainstream church. They already have what? Good reputations. They have to deal with lesser number of misconceptions. But here, I'm open to people having what? Misconceptions. Jesus was often what? Uncharitably interpreted too. People had many misconceptions about him. That's why people would rather have Barabbas, right, free than Jesus. Because people had what? Misconceptions. The religious leaders even accused him of exorcising demons through the power of Satan. And Jesus said, how can Satan cast out Satan? Right? Isn't that somehow what? Incoherent. It's a suicidal act. Right? Are you guys following me here? Right? Last point. Sacrificing familial relationships. Sacrificing what? Familial relationships. Verses 31 to 35. Jesus' family members were actually very worried about him. Because people were conspiring to what? Destroy him. They were probably thinking that Jesus was actually what? In big trouble. But when they approached him and said, Jesus, your family members are outside. And Jesus said, who are my families? My families are you, right? Who are what? Doing the will of God. Now, Jesus was not disowning his family. Jesus has a tendency to speak hyperbolically. Okay, I want you guys to remember that. Okay. But I think Jesus understood that ministry involves sacrificing what? Familial relationships. Let me give you a survey here, another survey. 90% of pastors report working between 55 to 75 hours per week. That's a lot. Okay, 90%. 80% of pastors believe that pastoral ministry has negatively affected their families. You guys know that many pastors' children do not even attend church. Many pastors' children do not attend church because they actually saw what the church has done to their parents. Does that make sense? Okay. 33% state that being in the ministry is an outright hazard to their family. Okay. 94% of pastors' families feel the pressures of the pastor's what? Ministry. This data suggests that people who are in the ministry sacrifice their what? Familiar relationships, right, in order to serve the church. Jesus did the same thing. Do you guys follow me here? Jesus did what? The same thing. So let me end with this. Churches today participate in the hardships that Jesus encountered in this ministry as they endure an organizational life that is not fully at home with the ways of the world. It's not fully at home with the ways of what? The world. They should always be unorthodox from the standpoint of the world. Do you guys follow me here? Churches should always be what? Unorthodox from the standpoint of the world. Any church that does not struggle with the ways of the world is a church that got accustomed to the ways of the world. If the church is not struggling with the ways of the world, that means they got accustomed with it, or with them, the ways of the world. It should be clear in the history of the church that it was initially an outsider. The church was an outsider before. And then it became what? An insider as it gains political power. And then it abuses its political power as it becomes accustomed to the ways of the world. It then became an outsider again through the Reformation as it affirmed biblical faith. It then gradually became an insider as it gains what? Political power. And then it began to what? Abuse the political powers. Do you guys follow? Are you guys following the cycle here? And then suddenly God revitalized the church through Pentecostalism, right, in the early part of the 20th century. Now, the point I'm trying to point out is this. The cost of unorthodoxy is living uncomfortably or awkwardly in the established ways of the world. Since the established ways of the world become what? Stale and dull after a while, which makes them irrelevant to the ever-changing what? Times. I always wanted to join a mainline Protestant church before, like a Presbyterian, Lutheran, Methodist. But every time I go there, I just don't see that this is the way of the future. Times are what? Changing. Times are changing. I can probably easily apply and ask if I can become a pastor, right, in a mainline church or something. I can just probably take a few classes. I can get my MDiv because I already have a master's in theology. Do you guys follow me here? Right? But I think that's not the church for the future anymore. As much as I love Protestantism, mainline Protestantism, right? Through the Spirit, God manages to renew the church after it has been repeatedly consumed by the ways of what? The world. God is always saving the church all the time. Do you guys follow me here? Right? So I hope that even though our symposia is an unorthodox in some sense, right? Has an orthodox beginning, I hope that we'll be able to do what God wants us to do here. Is that clear?